Distance learning is something that has been around for a long time. It is basically as it seems, learning that is occurring at a distance away from the school. When it first started out, students would mail in their assignments via the postal service. Since then, it has evolved and grown to include other forms of distance learning, including online learning. Online learning is distance learning entirely through the internet, so it is not really a question of how they differ, it is that online learning is just a type of distance learning. Online learning can use a variety of internet-based mediums like videos, forums, or even chats, whereas distance learning does not have to include any of these. Distance learning is also typically done as an all-or-nothing approach. Either your learning is from a distance or it is done in a classroom. Online learning can be done in the same way, or it can be done as a piece added to the traditional classroom. What this means is that if a teacher wants to implement a flipped classroom approach, then the home portion of the class would likely be some sort of online learning, a video to watch, take notes over, an audiobook to listen to, etc. Online learning experiences are quite vast at the moment. There are about 4 types of online courses: online tutorials, self-paced courses, facilitated cohort courses, and hybrid or blended courses. Some of these are self-paced and some are all instructed at the same time as a group. Some have instructors while others do not. Even the way the learning is achieved and the way mastery is shown varies between these 4 types of online learning. Most of them supply the content, but only a few will provide the materials and technology needed to get through the course. Then there are 3 categories of online learning. There are supplemental programs that help students earn credit to either graduate early or to get to the job market earlier on, or even for students who have gotten behind to catch back up. The second category of online learning is full-time, meaning it is an entire school based solely online. Finally, there are hybrids that use features of both. Believe it or not, the very beginning of online learning dates back to the late 1980s with the University of Phoenix. When the World Wide Web was made public in 1991, they switched over to the internet and thus began the evolution of online learning. This has since expanded to almost all universities to some extent, and more than 1.6 million students were enrolled in online courses in some form by 2002. Just like teaching in the classroom, there are several best practices for the online learning experience, and most of them work in both settings. The first is to work together with your peers. As they say, 2 heads are better than 1, and sometimes having others to bounce ideas off of can make the job much easier, as with the traditional classroom. Another best practice is to keep the lessons engaging. Just like in the traditional classroom, constant lecturing is no longer the mainstream way to teach. This best practice encourages the use of videos, discussions, audio, or even collaborative group work. The next best practice is to break the lessons down into small, about 10-minute chunks. Keeping class sizes down is another best practice, and then within that, grouping students into smaller populations for activities. The next best practice is to be available to help extend the learning of your students, but that also does not mean that you have to be responsive to everything. If your class has a discussion board, occasionally add in some follow-up questions. Adding in a follow-up to every discussion post would just lead to insanity. Finally, the last best practice that will be discussed here: use assignments that get students to use digital tools and multimedia. Anyone who watches TV for extended periods of time can attest that online learning is becoming a more popular alternative to the traditional schooling system, from websites like abcmouse.com getting young children interested in learning, to online high schools like Connections Academy. Commercials for these online learning opportunities run at all hours of the day and night. That fact alone tells you how popular online learning is becoming. All that shows is that the more fast-paced society becomes, the more popular online learning will become.